You are listening to The Heritage Pod, presented to you by the Heritage Group of Institutions.
You will be listening to the Knowledge Series with Professor Subhrajeet Ganguly, Assistant Professor, Department of Media Science.
Hi, this is Subhrajeet Ganguly, welcoming you all to another episode of the Knowledge Series podcast. Today we are having with us Mr. Paranjoy Guha Thakurta, a journalist and author. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me on this program. It's been a pleasure appearing on this podcast.
Sir, we would like to know something about the alternative journalism.
In this day and age of the social media, where every citizen is theoretically empowered to not only record a story, produce content, but put it in the public domain, the role of citizen journalists, the role of citizens using the social media to articulate the voices of the voiceless, to highlight protests that are taking place in their societies and in different parts of the country and the different parts of the world, have become that much more important. It's a separate matter that even if many citizens, more than ever before, today have the power to become a journalist, to become a communicator, to reach out to the public, it's not necessarily that she or he will be able to communicate in a manner that reaches out to large numbers of people. Your mother thinks you're a great singer in the bathroom, and you can sing and record it and put it up on a public platform. It doesn't mean that everybody will think you're as good a singer as your mother. So, the point is, the social media is playing an increasingly important role to play in highlighting, amplifying, disseminating information that concerns society as a whole and protests in particular.
Okay. Why alternate media is so important?
When you look at mainstream media, what do we mean by the mainstream media? You look at newspapers, magazines, printed books, radio, television. Today, all these media have become subsumed in what you hold in the palm of your hand. The internet and the mobile telephone, the cellular phone, has conflated all these different kinds of media into literally something that you hold in the palm of your hand. But once again, the issue is, how do you use it? Because that same instrument is not just used, it can be misused. It can be a vehicle of false, fake information. Information that is manipulated, information that spreads hatred. Therefore, when you talk about alternative media, you're saying alternative to what? Alternative to whom? Is it that you believe that large media organizations are necessarily of one kind? And here again, one has to take a more nuanced view. There are several large media organizations that take its job seriously, where journalists are allowed to hold truth to power, ask difficult questions to those who are in positions of power and authority, not goody-goody questions that we see today in India, where what we are seeing in India today is a very substantial section of the so-called mainstream media more interested in criticizing the opposition than the ruling regime. A complete inversion of roles. We see that media becoming a part of the nexus between big business and politics, and that's because big business owns substantial sections of the mainstream media. So, ability of those who work in these media organizations to express themselves freely is limited, is constrained, is constricted.
Nowadays, most of the media houses are owned by the media conglomerates. Is it possible for a reporter who is an employee to ask critical question to the owners?
The answer is apparent, which is why it's become more important than ever before to have media organizations that are free of influence from large political parties or political parties as a whole, large corporate bodies, big business houses and corporate conglomerates as a whole, and advertisers. And if they can develop models which sustain them through subscribers, through donations, they would perhaps be, their financial independence would give them that leeway to be able to express themselves and highlight issues and social issues of interest to society, protests that are taking place in society, which may not be covered or covered only inadequately by the so-called mainstream media. Now the question is, this is not easy. Journalism has become extremely dangerous, not just in India, but in many parts of the world. Mexico, Azerbaijan, several countries in the continent of Africa. Holding truth to power has become a very, very hazardous and dangerous occupation. The Israeli spyware Pegasus was used to compromise the phones of large numbers of journalists, because we are today living in a surveillance state where those in power, especially authoritarian regimes, especially military dictatorships, are misusing these tools to spy and surveil their own citizens, to stifle dissent, to throttle those who are opposed to their ways. They may claim that they believe in freedom of expression, but they actually don't. And therefore they misuse the tools that are today available to stifle dissent and prevent the truth from coming out and reaching out large numbers of people. In this context, across the world and also in India, the role of the social media and the alternative media becomes that much more important. Even though that same social media is misused to spread hatred, lies, and they have become propaganda weapons of those who are in positions of power. Despite that, it is akin to that double-edged sword. It's akin to that scalpel, that sharp knife. In the hands of a skilled surgeon, it can be and is used to cut a body and remove a diseased part if required, and hopefully make that person a healthier human being. But that same sharp knife can be used to maim, to kill. So it's how that sharp knife is used. It's how that social media is used or misused.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much for speaking with me.
That was Mr. Paranjoy Guha Thakurta speaking on alternative journalism. For more content, keep listening to the Heritage Pod. This is Subhrajeet signing off.
Presented to you by the Heritage Group of Institutions.